Proud supporters of Africa this week. Engen, with us, you are number one.
South Africa's President Jacob Zuma this week announced talks on a 26-nation free trade area made up of 3 existing trade blocs. Mark Pearson, Program Director at Trademark Southern Africa, who has been instrumental in developing and implementing the COMESA EAC SADC tripartite process, explained the vision behind the proposed free trade area.
I think that the main reason why they want to have the 26 member country free trade area is much more to do with creating larger markets and to be able to allow them to trade within those bigger markets, and to do that with liberalized rules of origin, which will improve the opportunities to trade regionally, and to actually have a situation where you have preferential trade going on within the region rather than preferential trade outside of the region only.
I mean, obviously, a lot of these regions have very protectionist clauses for the member states and industries within the various regions. Technically, how does a free trade area work, just by way of removing some of those tariff barriers?
A free trade area is really involves two main issues. One is a tariff phase down, to take your tariffs down to zero. But the trade is within the bloc which conforms to what they call rules of origin. And the rules of origin are in place so that you don't have a situation where you import goods from a third country, say as China or United States or whatever, and then just export that directly into another country. So that would be a trade deflection issue. So you have to conform to rules of origin to say that the manufactured product is actually manufactured within the trading bloc. So there are 2 issues that need to be addressed. One is to reduce the tariffs, and the other is to have rules of origin which are liberal enough to make sure that you are promoting trade, but at the same time making sure that you don't have any trade deflection taking place as well.
What sort of processes are going to unfold? We know that we've seen incredible integration and consolidation within the East African community, and they've moved really quickly in terms of creating freer movement of goods. Some would argue that SADC has lagged in many ways, and that SADC should begin first with its member states before even thinking about a bigger amalgam, such as being the one being proposed.
Well, I think that all of the 3 regional organizations have made good progress in terms of creating a preferential trade area. And as you say, the 3 blocks have got to different stages. The East African community has got to a stage where they have launched a common market. COMESA has got to a stage where it has launched a customs union. Now, that's not to say that they're operating in a true customs union, but they are working towards that. And SADC is at a stage where it has got a free trade area that covers 85% of its tariff lines. And the prognosis is that they're supposed to get to 100% of tariff lines by January of next year. So the free trade area is building on where we already are at in terms of the FTA, the acquis, that they call it, which is to say that if you already have a free trade area, which is the case in COMESA and the case in East African community, then you will extend the benefits that you extend to your member countries to all of the 26 countries, so that when SADC gets to the proposed 100% of the free trade area tariff lines that they've got in January of next year, you will have a situation where you're just basically extending preferences. So technically, it's not such a difficult thing to do.
Developments surrounding rescued lenders in the Nigerian banking sector remains a hot topic for investors. Private sector credit for April is down 5% from levels seen in September 2009, shortly after the central bank spent $4 billion to bail out 9 lenders. Kato Makuru, director at City Investment Research in Middle East North Africa, spoke to Wale Famurewa in Lagos.
With regards to the growth figure itself, I think you need to bear in mind that almost about 2 trillion of credit was sold to AMCON. So the 5% is not generally a like-for-like figure at all. I think there has been definitely a slowdown, even including for that though. That's clear. The reason is the banks are still trying to adjust to today's realities.
Right.
You know, they've really recently reinforced their risk systems. They're trying not to make the same mistakes that they made in the past. So they're being very careful as to who they extend credit to. So I think it'll take the banks some time to get comfortable. Also, we had an election process that slowed down. A lot of corporates making a lot of long-term decisions. Those are starting to come back. I'm very confident that credit growth will return to Nigeria.
Well, you know, we've seen this credit growth really moderate. I mean, for the lack of a better word, it's really been quite slow, to be honest. And the thought is, investors were buying banks because they lend. You know, the potential to lend and to make money from lending is really the reason why you're buying these banks. Now, obviously, with what we've seen with the rescued banks and on the secondary market, we've seen those banks come down about 20% recently, and we've just seen that entire sector seems to have really been stuck in the whole news about September 2011 deadline for recapitalization. How do you invest in this environment?
One thing I would say, it's very interesting. Long-term, Nigeria is a real strong growth story. In the near term, it's a rate story. The most important thing you have to look at Nigeria is what's happening to NIBOR rates. NIBOR rates are at 15% today. If we go back a year ago, they were less than in high single digits, 6-7%. So think about a highly liquid bank like a Zenith. Think about what it's doing on Treasury this year versus last year. It's doubling its money on Treasury. So you are going to get a lot of profit growth in Nigeria this year. True, credit growth will be slow initially, but that's going to pick up very fast. What you're going to see in the second quarter and third quarter are very big ticket credit items. You're going to see a lot of corporate extension of corporate credit. For example, those Etisalat, there was Heineken. You know, there have been a lot of big ticket deals that the big banks are doing, and you will start seeing that in their numbers. Make no mistake about it. But what you won't see is strong growth in retail, because we're still adjusting our risk systems to today's reality. The governor has asked them to use risk-based pricing models. They're introducing those models. It'll take time to get comfortable on the retail side and the small SME side, but they will come through. With regards to the distressed banks, our opinion has always been and will always be, you do not invest in them. They are not on their own going to grow. They need consolidation to grow. The reflection of their share price performance is a reflection of the reality that that's looking harder and harder. But to the shareholders, the main shareholders of those banks, I will say that if they do not consolidate, they will be the big losers in Nigeria.
Recent incidents of oil pipeline sabotage and its implications hold serious threats for national security in Nigeria. A recent study commissioned by Royal Dutch Shell put the amount of oil stolen each year by bunkerers or vandals in Nigeria at between 100 million and 250 million barrels. Dave Ensberger, Global Director for Oil at Energy and Metals company Platts, explained the impact of bunkering on an oil economy.
The theft of oil from pipelines in particular is a problem in exporting countries around Africa and around the world. These same problems happen as far away as Sudan and Equatorial Guinea and of course Russia, China, Indonesia. These countries all have the same fundamental problem. But in Nigeria, the theft of oil from pipelines as a whole, it's a professional business. The amount of quantities you're talking about there, 150,000 barrels to 300,000 barrels a day, that's of a level or of a scale of organized crime. You actually have to be running a very sophisticated business in order to be able to do that. Now, whether you call it hot tapping or bunkering, what's basically going on is sections of the Nigerian pipelines are being divided up among gangs and warring clans, and oil is periodically being siphoned off from the pipeline on its way to being exported to world markets, and instead being diverted onto smaller ships in the Delta, taken outside the Delta, transferred onto larger ships, and from there it disappears into the world's less known oil market, frankly, the second-tier market where illegal oil gets traded. The problem with Nigeria is it's of such a scale that it requires massive organization and therefore, Sam, massive corruption for that kind of behavior to go on. Everybody needs to be involved in that kind of a theft. Everybody from the pipeline operator all the way through to the ships that are taking it out of Nigeria.
So is the entrenched corruption in the industry there and the militants in the Niger Delta exacerbating this problem and creating a perfect environment for these cartels to operate?
I think so, Sam, because the typical theft of oil in Nigeria is anywhere from 70,000 barrels to as much as, call it 500,000 barrels, which is a full cargo of oil at that point. But even if you're just taking 70,000 barrels, which is a lot of oil, but not that much compared to the world market, you're still going to make something in the area of around, I estimate, $7 million in selling that oil to the world oil market. So a relatively small theft will generate you rather a lot of money. And if you're perpetuating a war or a local fight, that's going to keep you going for a while. So the core of this behavior in Nigeria is the instability in the delta itself. And I have a feeling that unless the government can really sort the delta out, this kind of organized theft of oil is going to carry on. Now, the problem is for Nigeria, we were just in Lagos a few weeks ago, is that this is akin to letting go of a half a pint of blood from your body every day. This is very debilitating for the Nigerian economy, and it's in the government's interest to really sort this out.
The government has made acknowledgement of the issue, but it seems that there have been very few prosecutions, if any, of those who've been found to be involved in oil theft. Now, it's believed that as far up as high-level government officials are involved in these cartels. Could this be a reason for the fact that a government has been ineffective in curtailing the oil theft?
Well, as I say, for the theft to be on this kind of a scale, there has to be massive systemic cooperation, which implies basically fraud on a massive scale. Now, Nigeria is not alone in having to fight graft. Many other countries in the world have to fight corruption in their governments and their businesses, frankly. And yes, this would be a symptom, to my mind, of a much larger problem with fraud and graft in government circles. Again, Nigeria is not alone in that. So if the government was absolutely determined to take care of this, there are things the government could do. Pipeline operators around the world monitor their flows very carefully. They look for pressure changes. Every theft will lead to a pressure change in a pipeline. If the government was serious about tackling this, there are technical steps it could take to crack down on the behavior a little more.
But Shell recently came out saying that it can no longer meet scheduled supply production for June and July due to vandalism and fires caused by thieves. It's saying that despite all the infrastructure and facility upgrades, it just can't keep pace with oil theft. So surely investors, is going to be a deterrent to investors going forward.
Yeah, I think so. Shell has been a participant in the Nigerian oil economy forever. And they've stuck by Nigeria through the last 15, 20 years of these kinds of problems. None of this is particularly new, Sam, even if it's growing in scale and becoming a bigger problem. Nigeria has been suffering from vandalism and attacks on its pipeline system from rebels in the Delta for as long as I can remember. So this is a deterrent to investment. It's actually harming Nigeria. Production right now is around 3.2 million barrels a day, something like that. Frankly, Nigeria should be in the big leagues of oil production, and that's only a second-tier country at this point. So it's deterring investment, it's harming the country, and if the government doesn't get it in hand, it's hard to see Nigeria's oil economy growing much beyond where it is.